I had a chat with someone the other day who said to me, when people ask me questions, it really helps me to understand my own process and what I do and why I do it. And somebody said to me, this is about touching the source. This is what this talk is about, touching the source. They said to me, I've been looking at your videos online and I'm really inspired by them, and I notice you've got a walk, and I notice you do a sovereignty course, and I notice you do, different events. What are you going to say on the talk that's going to be any different to what you say on the podcasts? Is it worth me coming on the walk? And I had to think about that, because I thought, well, the information fundamentally isn't going to change much. Obviously, if you do a sovereignty course, the information, it's not that the information changes, it's just that you're in an environment, for 6 months, a full day each month for 6 months. You're in an environment where you're surrounded by people that are prolifically producing in the world. They're very, very, very invested in their personal development. So you just being around these people, you will expand, just being in that place. And obviously we do specific exercises to identify the authentic self and to expand the authentic self and to expand our net of potentialities. So I thought, well, the information, say if you come on the walk, for instance, the information fundamentally doesn't change, but the experience does. And I said it's the difference between listening to a pop star on the radio and being in a room with the pop star and him singing personally to you. As you get closer to the source, your awareness expands. I was talking to one of my friends who was on the walk recently, a girl called Victoria Wright. She's a healer. She's a very beautiful soul, and I asked her, she does healing, she does Reiki, and I asked her what it was about the Reiki, or what it was about what she did, what was the essence of what she did. And she said something very profound to me, and it helped me to articulate what I think myself. She said, when I put my hands on people, their awareness expands. And I really like that. Their awareness expands because I touch them. And that really helped me with this answer for this guy, because I said, well, if you read an article by me, your awareness will expand, because the article is coming from pure truth. It's coming from my experience. It's coming from something that I actually know. If you read a book and you invest a little bit more of your time or your money and time are the same thing, of course, because money is just the representation of your time. So if you expand a bit more time and you read a book, then your awareness will expand a little bit more, because you'll be looking at it and thinking, this is possible. I'm like him. He can do it, I can do it. So your awareness expands. If you come to a one-day event, your awareness will expand more, because you're actually touching the source of the information. So you're at the first stage is cognitive. You're thinking, yeah, this makes sense, this person makes sense, he's like me, and it speaks to me, it's connecting me. As you get closer to the source and you touch the source, and you're working with somebody like me or somebody similar, as you touch the source, your awareness will expand again. Just automatically it will expand. Your potentialities will open up right in front of your eyes, because you're talking to somebody and you're realizing that they are not separate from you, they're not different from you, they actually are the same as you. In fact, at this lower, deepest level, they are you. There's a direct connection. Hindus call the Indra's net, or the quantum soup, or the Akashic field. Everything's connected at this level. So as you get closer to the source, you connect, your awareness expands. And of course, if you're dealing with somebody like me or somebody similar, somebody that's perhaps inspired you, somebody like me will help you to connect to your own source. So initially you'll connect to the source through me, but with the techniques that you learn and the awareness that expands, you'll be able to learn to connect to your own source directly through yourself. This is what I found when I started reading articles by people, and then my awareness would expand. I'd feel an excitement, I'd feel an anticipation, I'd feel this kind of expanded awareness. Then I would buy a book and I'd read it and I'd go, oh, this is really good, I really like this. Then maybe I'd go to a one-day talk with this person, and you're suddenly in the room with them. You go into the room with someone like Tony Robbins, for instance, your awareness will expand. Maybe he'll turn up in a jet, and your awareness of your potentiality will expand. Your awareness that ordinary people can do extraordinary things becomes evident. So I'll buy a book, I'll maybe go and do a course, and then if I'm with a good teacher, the good teacher will say, well listen, I'm a poor medium for you to connect to your own source. I can connect to my own source, but really I'm just going to try and show you how to connect to your own source, so that you can go away and connect to your own source all the time, whatever that is, and by whatever means. So the closer you get, the tighter you get, the closer you get to the source of the material, the more your conscious net will expand, the more your awareness will expand. And once it's expanded once, it's like an elastic band. You expand it enough times, it just won't go back again. You will always be aware of those potentialities. And once you get close to the actual source, because I'm not the actual source, I'm a medium for, for the source. I connect to my own source. Once you connect to your own authentic self, and your own authentic self, what they call the Atman, or the soul, is connected to the Brahman, or to the super soul, or to God. Once you connect to your own source, your consciousness expands exponentially. So I would go and look at the books, I'd look at the articles, maybe I'd start on Google, look at Wikipedia, I'd look at somebody like Blake or Milton or Dante Alighieri. I'd look at their articles, look at their books, and then I think, okay, where did my awareness expands? Where were they influenced? So I'd first look at the Waterstones front of shelf books, and we say, oh, they're influenced by Milton, they're influenced by Blake, or they're influenced by Dante Alighieri. So I'd go to those books. So I'd read, the Divine Comedy or Paradise Lost, or I'd read, the poems of Blake. And I'd look at their sources and think, where were they influenced? And of course they're influenced by the biblical texts. Nearly all the great painters, the great writers, have a strong influence in biblical text. So I'd follow that line back and I'd go to the biblical text, and I'd look at the Old Testament, the New Testament. I'd look at, the Quran. I'd look at the Torah. I would look at the Guru Granth Sahib from the Sikhs, or the Mahabharata, from the Hindus, or the Tao Te Ching from Taoism. I'd go to the source and look at it. And when you go to the source, it's really interesting. Your awareness expands exponentially. But when you go to their source, which is the Bibles, because the philosophers all lead their way back eventually to these places, that's where the influences come from. When you go back to those sources, you can pick up, for instance, the Old Testament. The Old Testament points you immediately back to yourself. The New Testament points you immediately back to yourself. The Mahabharata points you immediately back to yourself. It's saying your access to Brahma, your access to Krishna, your access to Christ consciousness, Buddha consciousness, Krishna consciousness, universal consciousness. Your access to that is directly through you. So all of these books are great sources, but they ultimately lead you back to you. And they're saying, what's your truth? Where is your truth? Who are you? Who is the person that's asking, who are you? Who is the person that's observing the person that's asking, who are you? So you start asking these questions about who you are. And when you start asking these questions about who you are, you expand exponentially. So the closer you get to the source, the wider the expansion. If you stay on the very periphery, which some people do, and they throw stones at, the articles or the books or the talks, you're never going to really get close to the source. And again, you don't need me to get close to the source. You don't need my articles and my books. They're really just a guide. I'm on my own journey, but they can help. You can go directly to it yourself. Absolutely, unequivocally, you could go directly to it yourself. You don't need dogma, you don't need religion. That's certainly from my perspective, you can go straight to it. All of these things help. They're all, you know, the intellectual information is really good, and they all guide you back to the one thing you need to do yourself, which is connect to your own source. And if you're in the physical world, create in the physical world. Go from a place of creation, and that creation can be anything from, you know, making a nut and bolt in a factory to, you know, writing a masterpiece, whatever it is that you want to do. The key is go to the source. The closer you are to the source, the more you will expand. Just by touching the source of the material, you will expand. Just by being in the company of the source of the material, you will expand. So invest in yourself. There are lots of people out there that are doing paid talks, free talks. You can go on the internet now and you can listen to the best people in the world talking about their theories and about what they want to do. Your consciousness will expand just by doing that. But again, you know, if you read Deepak Chopra and you like Deepak Chopra, go and meet Deepak Chopra, go to one of his talks, you know, swap your time and go and listen to him talk, try and get close to him, try and physically touch him. When you do that, you will expand. But it was, even when you get to the point of expansion, what will happen? Get to the point of expansion, and all it does is shows you your potentiality. And when you see your potentiality, it's up to you then to create with it, to use it, to choose. It will show you your choices, the infinite choices. And the more you're in that relaxed place, the more choices you will see. But you've still got to use those choices. You've still got to act on those choices. It still takes it takes a very strong will. And if you haven't got control of the physical body, if you haven't got a strong will, you can have all the choice in the world, it make no difference. I know people that spend all fucking day sitting in meditation and seeing their potential, but don't do anything with it because they haven't developed a strong enough will to go out in the world to do it. So God works through our intuition. He talks to us from the world of archetypes directly through our intuition, and He acts through our physical body. That's what Dan and Nisanta said. We work through the physical body. We manifest through the physical body. So we can't ignore the physical body. We've got to develop that, but we still have to act. So we have to develop a strong will. In the Hindu text, they say that you can't elevate yourself spiritually while you're still struggling to crawl on the floor. So in other words, if you're not existing as a human being, and they have tenets which talk about how you exist as a human being. In other words, if you haven't got the discipline to change your socks and look after your grooming and you know, sit and study or do exercise, if you haven't got the discipline to you know, to dissolve your negative habits, you're not really going to elevate to any other level. You've got to get the groundwork right first, and if you want to go high, you need to dig deep. We need great sovereignty over the body. So first of all, we need to exist as a human being. We need to be able to make the money shake. We need to be able to work economically. You know, we need to be able to exist in the world. We need to be able to buy a house or live in a house. We need to be able to exist before we can help other people to exist. We cannot, if we're divided against ourselves, we can't help other people to become whole. We just can't. Then it becomes the equivalent of an ant pretending to lead an elephant. He thinks he's leading the elephant, but at any point the elephant will stop and can stop and will stop. We need to make sure we're in charge of who we are. And if we're going to be in charge of who we are, we need to be in charge of ourselves. We need to know who our authentic self is. We need to understand that the mind is the servant of the authentic self, and that the energy we push around the body is the servant of the mind, and we need to understand that the body is the servant of the mind as well. So what we need to make sure that there's a top dog. We need to make sure there is a sentinel, and the sentinel there will be the authentic self. So we identify that the authentic self is connected to the realm of possibilities. That's the one that's in the driving seat, and through that we exercise the mind, we exercise the body, we exercise the vital chi energy to create in the physical world. Takes great mastery, takes great sovereignty over the self. So that's the journey. The journey for today is to get as close to the source as you can, and the source ultimately is in you. Get as close to the source as we can, and don't think that we can do it without control of the physical, of the mind body, of the physical body, of the emotional body. We've got to get control of all these different aspects. We need to be top dog in our own body, and we're not going to be top dog if the horses of the chariot are wild, if the driver of the chariot is drunk, if the wheels of the chariot are breaking off and they're not being maintained, and we haven't got a steady passenger in the back seat saying this is where we want to go. Now we need to make sure we've got control of the vehicle. Once we've got control of that, you will see that this energy that is looking for you, you think you're looking for it, it's looking for you, will work through you. But we need to get control first.